One Piece is, without question, one of the greatest stories I have ever read. Its fights are so much more than just a display of strength, and its world building exists on a scale that few works of fiction have ever dared to attempt. And on top of it all, One Piece carries an emotional weight that transcends its genre. Its moments of triumph, sorrow, and camaraderie resonate with an intensity that lingers long after the page is turned or the episode ends. Yet beneath its grandiose adventure and larger-than-life characters lies one of its most profound and often understated themes, the concept of inherited will. Ichiro Oda doesn't simply tell the story of a single man chasing an impossible dream. He crafts sagas where legacies are passed down, ideals are carried forward, and the desires of the past shape the struggles of the present. In One Piece, the dead are never truly dead. And no, I'm not talking about the ever-present will of P, but rather the idea that so long as someone is willing to bear the torch of someone of the previous generation, then they have not truly died. There are numerous examples of this in practice, from Luffy's inheritance of Goldie Roger's will to more minor, less central characters like Carrot and her inheritance of Pedro's will to protect Zoe. Oda has held this idea as the beating heart of so many of his characters since before the time of the Drum Kingdom arc and Dr. Hiriluk's parting words. However, inherited will is not a static force. It's not a simple imitation or blind devotion to the past. It's something that evolves, adapts, and takes on new meaning in the hands of those who inherit it. Nowhere, I feel, is this more evident than in the dynamic between Sabo and Ace, two brothers who share a central tenet in their will, yet whose legacies diverge in ways that make them distinct. From his birth, Ace faced a cruel and unforgiving destiny. As the son of Goldie Roger, he was never given a chance to simply exist. His very life was seen as a crime, a lingering shadow of the Pirate King that the world sought to erase. His mother had died bringing him into the world, and from the moment he could understand the weight of his lineage, he was burdened with the question, why do I exist? The question followed him like a curse, shaping every battle, every choice, every reckless attempt to carve out his own path. It wasn't just a fight in pursuit of strength. It was a desperate attempt to justify his belonging in this world. He needed to prove to himself and to the world that he was more than his father's shadow, more than the bloodline that had doomed him before he had even had a chance to live. And for so long, that hunger never seemed to fade. No matter how far he ran or how strong he became, the doubt always lingered. But then, in an odd stroke of fate, he wound up by Whitebeard's side, the rival to the father he always sought to surpass. And for the first time since those fleeting childhood days with Luffy and Sabo, he had something he had never truly known before, a place where he was accepted as is, not because of his name, but because of what he was. And in the warmth of that unshakable bond, the void inside him finally began to fade. Though Ace proclaimed a desire to make Whitebeard king of the pirates, his final moments tell a different story. As Luffy held his dying brother in his arms, hearing him thank Luffy for loving him, Ace admits that his only regret was that he would not be there to see Luffy achieve his dream. Ace's desire to be loved was sated during his final moments, and his will morphed into a burning desire to keep Luffy safe and see his dream succeed. A will we thought died with him until many chapters later. Sabo's entrance into the series was a difficult one to accept. While he first appeared in the ASL flashback, His return to the timeline proper required the utilization of what is typically seen as one of the weakest storytelling devices in writing: amnesia. After a celestial dragon destroyed Sabo's ship, he was assumed to have died. In reality, he was rescued by Monkey D. Dragon, leader of the Revolutionary Army and father of Monkey D. Luffy. However, his trauma of nearly drowning and witnessing his dreams of living freely being ripped away caused him to lose all memories of his past life, including his bond with Luffy and Ace. For years, Sabo unknowingly lived with the revolutionaries, training under Dragon and Ivankov, growing into a brilliant strategist and one of the army's strongest warriors. But it wasn't until he saw Ace's death in the newspaper that everything came rushing back. His memories, his identity, and most importantly, the unbearable realization that he had forgotten one of the most important people in his life. Despite the controversy surrounding his return, Sabo's reintroduction into the Dressrosa Coliseum became one of the arc's most memorable highlights. Taking Luffy's place in the tournament, where the grand prize was none other than Ace's Meta Meta no Mi, felt like an act of fate. After years of Luffy believing his brothers were dead, Sabo returns not only to reclaim his lost past, but also to inherit the very essence of Ace's will. The moment he devoured the fruit and unleashed his first Fire Fist, it was as if Ace himself had returned, but not just as a replacement, but as a legacy reborn, a fire that would never truly go out. Sabo at this moment inherits two promises from his late brother. The first is to protect Luffy at all costs. The second was a revival of their pledge to live freely. While Ace notably walks this path as a pirate, Sabo walks his as a revolutionary, expanding the dream beyond the more self-centered ambitions of Luffy and Ace to the entirety of the One Piece world. Sabo fights so that no one else will be forced to suffer under the oppression or stigmatization the way Ace believed he might have had to. Sabo's last and most notable appearance involved him doing what was considered unthinkable for generations outside of the actions of his own brother. He openly declared war on the Celestial Dragons. The Revolutionary Army worked from the shadows for years, slowly chipping away at the system. Sabo took this a step further, igniting the rebellion and bringing the fight to the central heart of power itself. In doing so, Sabo earned a title more significant than any he held before. Sabo became known to the common people as the Flame Emperor, a name that made him a symbol to be feared by the very government that sought to execute his brothers, a name that put the world government on the defense, a name, ironically, that did precisely what Ace always dreamed of doing, a name that possibly surpassed the fear the government felt surrounding the title of Pirate King. When Sabo truly returns to the forefront of this story, it will not just be as the inheritor of Ace's will, but as a man who, with Ace's flame, will help burn this corrupted system to the ground and ensure that all people may live freely.